I just want to say something about Bill Douglas. What passion, what commitment. I'm so honored to be working with him and looking forward to the day when quantum chi is out in the world and people are practicing qigong, tai chi, and we have a lot of yoga practitioners on the show. And then we can make another film about the Global Transformation Project.
Qi is a foundation of many healing arts. Qi is foundation of many traditions in China. Life is from energy. Life is from qi. And how about qi? Where does the qi come from? From love. From love of the universe.
What does qi feel like? A buzz, tingling. You're so excited, full of energy that you want to be playful all the time.
When the qi flowing, you can feel like warm, expand, some tingling. Because qi, when you move, it also have a power to heal.
When you're doing qigong, what you're doing is cultivating life force within your body. You become a conduit for information, for new information to come into the body. And you connect to the qi of the earth and the sky. You're simply a conduit.
In Taoist practice, you're harnessing this light, this energy, this qi. And so when we cultivate that energy from within, that compassion, that joy, that love, we can shift our state, shift that emotional state into something that's elevated and not constricted.
Learn to shift from externally focused, searching for happiness, searching for meaning of life. You go inwardly, recognizing you have more access to life inside of you.
It's a discipline, a healing art, a way of training the body and mind, a meditation in motion, a medication in motion, a way of conditioning the body for martial arts, for sports, improving strength, stamina, balance, and coordination.
Yoga practitioners and teachers love Qigong. The Qi focus turns their attention to a much more awakened internal sensory awareness.
There's a sense of resting in a very natural, open, spacious, clear, luminous energy which then carries you spontaneously and creatively through the movements and the flow.
Therein lies the ability of practicing Qigong to build up incredible force in the body for rejuvenation, longevity, self-healing, and healing others.
Qigong for everyone.
Qi is love.
One thing I wanted to mention real quick that I had intended to mention is Sharon has a documentary coming out, Quantum Chi. And this is, we should be, when this comes out, we should be making sure everybody knows about it. Everybody's spreading this. This documentary, what it leaves people with is what Sharon is so skilled at is taking profound esoteric realities and truths and putting it in an artful manner so that you're literally feeling a qi state or a wu-wei state when you're watching this documentary. And it will leave everybody with this feeling in their mind, oh, I need to be doing this stuff. Or those of us that do it, it'll be leaving us with, oh, I need to do this stuff more. I need to, rededicate myself to these things. And so this documentary can be a huge vehicle for the planet. And I hope everybody promotes it, just like I hope everybody promotes the petition at the Global Transformation Project. We're all sisters of the same vision here. We're not competing interests. What I want to do is promote Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness teachers all over the planet. That's what I've dedicated my whole life to. It's not coming to Bill Douglas to try to figure out how to do your stuff. What I provide is the science that shows what everybody is doing out there is tremendously valuable. And Sharon's documentary can do that as well.
all these chronic diseases are imminently preventable, and there's mountains of research on the fact that all these chronic diseases are preventable. My earliest lecture on this the cost of medicine was 1 trillion. Now it's 4+ trillion. It's embarrassing. And check this out: 75 to 90% of disease and medical visits are preventable. And this is according to our own most impressive, although not that impressive, health organizations like the National Health Service in the UK. These organizations are supposedly protecting the citizens of the United States from chronic disease. No, that's not happening. We've had that discussion. But here's the most important thing, is that on an annual basis, we could be saving somewhere around 90% of $4.5 trillion. That's $3.5 to $4 trillion. So why is this not happening? Well, we know it's because people are deluded into believing that they don't need to do or think anything about taking care of themselves, because when they get sick, they can go to a doctor and the doctor will fix them. And that is ridiculous.
The Gospel of Science, 2nd edition. And I'm not trying to sell it, I'm trying to give it away. And so on World Tai Chi Day all day, you'll be able to get this, the Kindle ebook version for free. And then also on the following Saturday, May the 3rd. And so everything that I'm going to be talking about, all the science is meticulously endnoted in here. So you'll be able to go to the web page if you get the book, and you'll be able to see the source data, the studies, the articles that all this science came from. And that's really important to get out to the mind-body community. So I thought I'd start this with a quote, and I think it was Bertrand Russell, but I could be wrong. And he said that truth is always simple, but humanity will stampede all over simple truth to get to something more complicated. And what this journey, this has been like getting close to a 50-year journey of Tai Chi and Qigong, and also just mind-body practices in general, because like, I know I'm not the only person, but over these decades practicing Tai Chi and Qigong, I've become aware of yoga and mindfulness and different meditation techniques. And you start to realize very quickly that they're all part of the same family. And what the data shows is that what they all have in common is they're able to bring the brain waves into the alpha brainwave state. And then when we practice it on a regular basis, we tend to operate more in a gamma wave consciousness, which is a higher level of consciousness, which the science seems to show what it does is it plugs us into the internet of existence so that we're open to greater insights and information. And so what all this science in the Gospel of Science 2nd edition leads to is the irrefutable realization that most of the world's problems could be solved by educating public education students, kindergarten through 12th grade, in mind-body practices. And so my research into the science, it started in my classes because I had doctors in my classes that were healing and getting off of different kinds of drugs and recovering from injuries and stuff. And so then they started handing me medical research. This is before Google, or before I knew about it. And this stack just got bigger and bigger. And so one thing to realize, one thing that's so important for the mind-body community to realize, all of us, Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, is the science is already in on this stuff. The idea that we have to have a certain amount more science before we realize that we should be educating public education children in mind-body practices, that's just not real. The reason that it seems like it's real is because our mass media and in the United States, our government to a large extent as well, the regulatory agencies, they just willfully ignore this because they're pharmaceutical driven. And so let's just look at just one thing that we're all painfully familiar with, the COVID event. What the science showed was that the frontline healthcare workers who had high T cell counts, they were much less likely to contract COVID. And if they contracted it, they were much less likely to suffer severe symptoms from it. Now, what the data shows is that mind-body practices profoundly increase T cell counts on a large scale. And so we could be teaching school children all over the planet how to keep their T cell counts elevated, because they stay pretty elevated up to about age 7. That's when we lose touch with the alpha meditative state. As children, we're just naturally in an alpha meditative state most of the time. That's what the brain scientists explained to us. And so we could be teaching kids how to stay in touch with this, just very natural state of being and dramatically boosting global immunity. One of the studies that I cite in the book was a university study, and they taught the swimmers on the university swim team how to do Qigong. And the Qigong group, compared to the control group of swimmers, had 85% less respiratory infections. So let's just, if we could just all realize the science is in. And one thing that I want to point out that a lot of people don't get, and I get to it in the book as well, in the Gospel of Science, is that scientists put their careers on the line to study mind-body practices and consciousness, because that is a taboo subject for researchers. And when you get into the book, you'll see what I'm talking about. And but they've done it. They put all their lives into uncovering this science that you don't get through mainstream media, and you don't get through the medical community, because it's all pharmaceutical driven. So what we could be doing is we could be, according to Dr. Herbert Benson's research at Harvard, who was kind of a catalyst for me, as well as Ken Cohen's way of Qigong, where he approached this mind-body as a scientific, on a scientific level. But Dr. Herbert Benson's research showed that between 60 and 90% of the health issues sending people to the doctors are caused by stress and best treated by mind-body practices: Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, and mindfulness. And then a Kaiser Permanente 20-year study found that somewhere between 70 and 85% of the health issues sending people to their doctors were caused by stress. And so by educating public education students in mind-body practices, and we could do it with a 1 hour, what we're recommending through a United Nations, non-binding United Nations resolution, is we're advocating an hour a day where they would bring local Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness teachers into the classrooms to teach children at age-appropriate ways. And that'd be really easy to do. So like for kindergartners, first graders, second graders, third graders, you could be teaching them animal Qigong, fun things. It has to be fun, because that's what takes you into the brainwave state that you want to achieve. And so how could schools do that? Well, they could contact local mind-body teachers in those 5 categories, and they could bring them in and interview them just like they would for any other job. And they could see, how they deal with the kids, and, do they approach it in a way that works well with their school. The other thing too, as I mentioned earlier with Stephen, is the Muse headband, which is relatively inexpensive, and it shows when you're going into alpha state. It gives you instant feedback. And so we could, schools around the world could be using the Muse headband to see whether the techniques that they're bringing in are actually helping kids get to the alpha state, because that's where all the magic happens. And so this could be very easily done. It's like one of the things that organizing World Tai Chi Day has taught us is that there are effective mind-body teachers in virtually every city all over the planet. It's all in place. And so what we want to do is we want to use the United Nations General Assembly as a vehicle to get the science that's already there out to public educators worldwide. And public educators, if you go to globaltransformationproject.org and look at the science, you'll see what I'm talking about, or if you read the Gospel of Science. And as far as from an educational standpoint, how do we sell it to educators? Well, regular meditators, IQs improve by 20 points. Any teacher in the world who could look at a study like that and go, oh, we don't want our students to have 20-point higher IQs. I don't think you're going to find any rational teacher that's going to think that way. And then at the same time, you know, while that's happening, they're improving their GRE reading skills, their math proficiency skills, their verbal fluency skills. All this is documented. It's in the Gospel of Science, and it's endnoted, so you can become aware of this. Mind-body, the mind-body community, we have to get educated on the science that already exists, that's not being given to people through the mass media and through the government institutions. And in my hospital classes, the biggest challenge that I have with patients or students coming into my classes is that they won't believe that these things will do what they do, what science has shown they will do what they do, because they haven't seen it on their news station. And the reason they haven't is because Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, for example, he doesn't report on the huge breadth of possibility of mind-body, because at the end of every one of his newscasts, it says, brought to you by Pfizer Corporation. And there's money to be made. There's massive money to be made off this dysfunctional education system, health system, and also prison system. In the United States, we imprison more of our people than any country on the planet Earth. And our violent crime rates are actually at 40-year lows. And I get into all this in the book because that's actually related to the spread of mind-body practices around the planet. But we have this high imprisonment rate. And when I taught at Folsom Prison, and that's what really got me started on looking into the consciousness of mind-body practices and the quantum physics and the chaos mathematics that shows how this changes the consciousness of the whole planet. And at Folsom Prison, they had a Tai Chi Chuan program for 2 years. And during that 2 years, the Tai Chi Chuan program participants, their recidivism rate went from the normal 70% return to prison rate down to 30%. And not only that, but during that 2 years, the incident rate, that's the misbehavior rates, fights, all those kind of things, the incident rate went down for the whole prison. And this has been replicated in other prisons. There was a Mexican prison called Apodaca Prison, and they had a horrifically violent incident. And then they taught the whole prison how to meditate. Everybody, prison guards, administrators, everybody. They haven't had a violent incident since that happened. And so we could be emptying our prisons. We could be cutting trillions of dollars. This is all data driven. It's just that most people don't know about it, and they're not going to know about it if they don't dig for it. Now you can read this, and you can get this for free on World Tai Chi Day, and you can have all this science meticulously endnoted to make it easy for you to get what you're not going to get from the government, and what you're not going to get from the mass media. But we could be transforming the planet, saving trillions of dollars every year, year after year after year, trillions of dollars. Imagine what the world could do with trillions of dollars year after year after year. We could be emptying our prisons, reducing violence and conflict, and also creating much more intelligent and creative students coming out into the society. All this is possible, and it's all easily done. Okay, so now why did we choose the United Nations General Assembly to use it as a vehicle to help expedite this vision and this possibility? We did it because in 2014, the United Nations General Assembly voted to create the International Day of Yoga. And it was patterned after World Tai Chi Day, which, you know, we all started 7 years before. And I think that's a real feather in the cap of the Tai Chi community, because the Tai Chi community had the vision that it was time for the planet to know about all this stuff. And we educated together, coming together as a Tai Chi and Qigong community, we educated over 1 billion media viewers and readers on the science of Tai Chi and Qigong, because we have that database at worldtaichiday.org that has medical research on Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, meditation, mindfulness for 100 of the most common health conditions that people face. So we taught people how to get a media microphone, get media to show up at their events, and then use that microphone to educate the public about science. And we reached over 1 billion media viewers and readers. And then we also got government bodies all over the planet to advocate Tai Chi and Qigong for their citizens. And so the United Nations, 7 years later, after we organized World Tai Chi Day, they created the International Day of Yoga. And they did it to increase global health and global harmony. And so we cite that in our draft resolution for the Global Transformation Project to urge public educators all over the planet to look at the science. And when they look at the science, they'll want to bring local mind-body teachers into their classrooms, kindergarten through 12th grade. And what you'll have is you'll have a whole generation of mind-body masters. And so the reason that this is so doable is that when that resolution passed in the General Assembly, that International Day of Yoga, it passed with a record number of co-sponsoring nations, 177 co-sponsoring nations. Never before had the world come together around something like they did for the International Day of Yoga. And the Global Transformation Project, public education, mind, body, and public education is the next step. And so Angela and I, who founded and organized World Tai Chi Day, we are volunteering ourselves, we're committing ourselves to lobbying every United Nations mission on the planet to co-sponsor this resolution for advocating mind-body education in public education. And we'll contact them all. And we've got a proven record of global organizing from just what I've just told you about the government and the media. And so we're able to do it, and we're volunteers. We're volunteering our time to do it. And if you read this book and you look at this science, you realize that we're offering a profound gift to the world, and especially to the mind-body community. All these qualified teachers should be in the public education. Different people, some people teach better with older kids, high school. Some people are good at teaching with younger kids. I've taught at all levels, and you can change, you can modify and incorporate, aspects of all these big 5 mind-body practices and create something that's really fun and really beneficial to kindergartners all the way up through 12th grade. And so we could use the United Nations as a vehicle to get this information out to public educators around the planet who aren't getting it through their healthcare system, and they're not getting it through their mass media. And we could do an end run around all that stuff. And so I'll just close with Bertrand Russell's quote, "Truth is always simple, but humanity will stampede all over simple truth. They'll build prisons and they'll build pharmaceuticals and they'll build all this complicated stuff until the end of time because it makes a lot of money. Prisons make a lot of money in the United States. But the solution is simple. The solution is so simple. And we've got a vision. We've got the science to back it up. This is 40 years of work that we've done. And like I said, we're giving it away on World Tai Chi Day. This is free on Kindle all day long. And then the following Saturday on May the 3rd. That's the best we can do, is to put all this together, give it away, and volunteer ourselves to do this. Now, we're not going to do this until we have at least 100,000 signatures at globaltransformationproject.org on the petition, because we need the soul force of the mind-body community. And this isn't just poetic. When you look at the science, there's a reality to that. When people come together in states of consciousness around compassion and healing, there is a real physical force to that. It actually affects the planet. Now, we've got about 2,000 signatures on that thing, and I've been begging the mind-body community, the world. I've been contacting everybody. Jon Kabat-Zinn, Transcendental Meditation Foundation. It's not being grasped what the possibility is here. If we got the mind-body community spreading globaltransformationproject.org and spreading this petition, we should have millions of signatures for me and Angela to take to lobby all these United Nations missions,